has to insert its unique element of identity. Moreover, we had to put in consideration that we have to respect the equity between users in terms of special needs or others, and this one of the major concern in design outdoor spaces, as all of us know about it. Moreover, we studied the law and the regulation that manage the construction in this area. It was very significant to study the environmental frame in terms of topography, climate, flora and fauna, and other issues, such as the urban context. In the engineering frame, we have to put in consideration that we have a technology. This technology will play very positive in attracting users to use outdoor spaces. These spaces should attract the teenagers, which is almost the age of the users and the student, as well as the staff members to be in relation within the urban context. We have to again to focus about some changes happened in the environment related to these circumstances like Corona and whatever. So to how far, when we accommodate a design, how can we find the distances and supply with the informations and be in the safe side. We need to put in vision in design that each part should be functionally and economically easy and visibility one, and it is not only showing. Every part should be functional and be in a proper way. Selecting material is highly consideration why we design these outdoor spaces as well. So in the design criteria, we went for, as we said it before, selecting the proper species for the plants, as well for the hardscape elements in terms of flooring design, lightweight structure, lighting elements, water elements, and even sign design and so on. The phases of the project had been divided into main 5 phases as explained in these slides. So the important part of how far we encourage walkability in this universe. So the design ideas depend on dividing the movement of car and separate from the movement from the users, walkability, bicycles and so on. So we divided the circulation and to make it clear and make it safe for everyone to use it in the space. To encourage walkability, we can see in this figure that there is a clear separation between the vehicle circulations and the walkability issues in the campuses. In each university, the Rhode Island had been designed to reflect the identity in the campus. Design this part of university has unique vision in terms of selecting the pattern, the red, the color, to reflect the identity for each part from the other part. It is a quality for the visual issues. Here we can see this example came from Najran University campus, as we had a nice design. For example, open spaces in central garden, we have sub gardens, we have minor small gardens, and each one of them we focus is to give like intimate space for students to have comfortable space, to have a place to study, a place to recreational, place to work as in workshops, place to make social interacting. Using the outdoor spaces in the student accommodation is to enable students in studying after finishing the educational day. As we can see, we focus upon that to make like social interacting, as well as give plenty of areas for learning and educational and studying and sharing experience between students. So to enable gathering area in this area. Here, this zone is related to, let's say, active days in terms of educational days or learning time. So this here coming from student as an approaching for a place or transition or have a destination. So this type of circulations has been carefully studied. As we can see to how far we play with the pattern, this pattern become like a landmark or unique for all the spaces within the area, and there is like emphasizing for the circulation, give nice color, and this pattern leads to show the circulation as well as for the gathering spaces. And we can see we have here transition between corridors in a nice way. As we can see here, we focus upon solving the roundabout in different landscape architecture work in terms of statues as a landmark. Here, this landmark play like attracting point and to show the circulation and directions between spaces. We can see here, even for this small roundabout, that we have one theme had been followed in all university. So this theme respects the main concept and the main, let's say, philosophy of the design. There is a one line for our design had been applied in even for the roundabout speeches of the soft and hard, as we saw in the previous slides. We can see here even for the cul-de-sac or for the closed-end routers that these streets, it is closed-ended and it is again has its value, and it's important, had its care in design for even a small part in these open spaces. We care about even end of the streets. This to give a message that for users that if someone is care about you even for the minor part, that means there is a care about every part in your time in the university. Ending of my presentation, it should be noted that the main frames helped the designer for these universities to meet the user's needs and respect the human dimensions in this area, and the resulted comprehensive design for such university play a very good point for encourage users to go for outdoor spaces in a healthy environment and encourage walkability, which one of the challenge in designing the universities. End of my presentation. I hope that I covered the point in a very quickly, and I acknowledge the conference for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, this is Dongye Zhang. Today I'm going to present courtyard housing around the world, a cross-cultural analysis and contemporary relevance. Set within the universe, humans need a shelter for peaceful existence, a space where one can observe the interchanges of the sun and the moon, day and night, wind and rain and the seasons. This space is a courtyard. A courtyard is a special place that opens to the sky and often to the earth, surrounded by rooms, trees, plants, and flowers. It provides residents with daily contact with nature and is usually the liveliest place in the house. The courtyard is environmentally friendly and energy efficient. Its form permits light, air, and views, as well as defense, security, family privacy, and the control of noise and dust. Previous research findings suggest that if a courtyard is provided with a pool, fountain, trees, plants, and flowers, it can raise the relative air humidity and act as a temperature moderator, reducing heat in summer and warming up air in winter. Moreover, square-shaped courtyards have better thermal performance as a passive cooling strategy than rectangular-shaped courtyards. Furthermore, a courtyard can regulate indoor light with high levels of exterior illuminances, relatively reduced in summer and increased in winter through reflection on the vertical surfaces. The courtyard house also promotes cultural vitality. Its design and plantations were often based on the concept of heaven or paradise in world histories and philosophies. In his book, House Form and Culture, Amos Rappaport eloquently argued that house form is not simply the result of physical forces or any single causal factor. It is the consequence of a whole range of socio-cultural factors seen in their broadest terms. All over the world, the courtyard has functioned as a place for cultural activities and festivities when weather permitted. The courtyard house is one of the oldest types of human habitat, spanning at least 5,000 years, and occurring in distinctive forms in many parts of the world across climates and cultures. My literature research shows that nearly 40 countries in the world have identified with having traditional courtyard houses, which are marked on this map. The different sizes of the red squares indicate the extent of the spread of the courtyard house in that country or region. The aims of the study are threefold. First, to explore traditional courtyard houses in 6 cultures: Chinese, Indian, Islamic, Greco-Roman, Spanish, and Hispanic American, with regards to their cosmic axis and architectural symbolism, favorable orientation of buildings, socio-spatial organization, and cultural activities. Secondly, to trace contemporary new courtyard housing around the world. Finally, to suggest a new courtyard garden housing system that may be applied globally. Throughout history, Chinese builders have favored a number of conventional architectural plans and structural principles, among which are axiality, bilateral symmetry, hierarchy, and enclosure, as emphasized in feng shui theory. Courtyards or light wells were important features in the layout of a fully built Chinese house. Philosophically, the courtyards acted as links between heaven and earth, because during the Han Dynasty, Chinese people regarded heaven and earth as a microcosm and the human body as a microcosm to reflect the universe. Offering sacrifices to heaven and earth in the courtyards was considered crucial to bringing good fortune. China situates in the northern hemisphere of the globe, in the east of the Eurasian continent. Sunlight comes from the south all year round. Feng shui theory advocates the houses should sit north and face south, not only for receiving more sunlight, but also for avoiding chilly winds. The correct building orientation was essential for Chinese people also because they worshipped the sun and moon gods. The drawing on the left shows house types across China with the courtyard as a common feature. The drawing on the right is the 8 trigrams method for courtyard layout to achieve the unity of heaven and humans, indicating Chinese cosmological thinking when arranging the rooms around the courtyard to promote health and well-being for the occupants. A traditional Chinese courtyard house will normally host an extended family of 3 or 4 generations. Social hierarchy was clearly expressed in the spatial arrangement of some extensive courtyard houses. After entering a typical Beijing Siheyuan, one would immediately enter the inverted south hall that was sitting south and facing north, which was normally used by male servants and the gatekeepers. The central halls, serving as the living quarters for the oldest generation and the guests, was placed along the north-south central axis facing south, and was the highest and most exquisitely decorated. When there was no guest, the central halls was used as a study or places for ancestral worship, conducting daily activities, holding life cycle events, having seasonal festivities, and so on. The central halls symbolized family unity, continuity, and the power of family clan. The east and west wing halls were linked to the cardinal directions and the social hierarchy. They were the quarters for the lower family members, such as concubines and children, and were less decorated. Spaces for wives and unmarried female family members were placed deeper in the northern halls. So the best buildings in the Beijing Siheyuan were the central halls facing south, each with 2 year rooms flanking on either side. The second best was the west wing halls facing east, and the least ideal were the south hall facing north and the east wing hall facing west. Apart from cultural implications, the room rankings also relate to thermal comfort in the climate of northern China. Family life was peacefully played out in a finely tuned classical Chinese courtyard house. Traditionally, the courtyard was a space for domestic activities. Cooking was normally conducted in courtyards in summer for reducing heat indoors. Tables and stools were placed in courtyards for study or recreation. Children would play in courtyards without adults having safety concerns. Pets, plants, and flowers were also nurtured in courtyards. In southern China, such as Suzhou, where the climate is generally warm, scholars and artists would regularly meet in courtyard gardens of private homes, where they could actively socialize, quietly contemplate, philosophize, compose and read poetry, paint, play games, drink tea or wine, pick herbs for medicine, and so on. Many of these fashionable pastimes were practiced well into the Song, Ming, and Qing dynasties. So, Chinese courtyard gardens functioned as spiritual and material refuges and facilitated a cultured way of life. Courtyard house is an indigenous architectural style in India as well, whose design was guided by a square mandala as a representation of the cosmos. The diagram is divided into a square grid with a network of lines running from north-south and east-west, each quarter designating the place of a god, with the central square left empty, symbolizing concentrated energy and the metaphor of the cave in the heart, in which soul or Atman resides. The human body, dwelling, and settlement must be correctly oriented within this cosmic square for health and well-being. The sun and seasonal wind directions, as well as cultural traditions, determine the Indian courtyard orientation. The favorable orientations for most Indian houses are east, north, or west. South is considered an inauspicious direction because it faces the heat of the sun, and where lives the god of death, Yama, who would bring misfortune. The majority of Indian courtyard houses face east towards the Ganges River because it is the direction of sunrise. North is also considered a favorable orientation because of the Himalayan mountains.